Hi, I'm John Jones, and welcome to Navigating Your Life, a system designed specifically to enhance all aspects of your life: mind, body, spirit, emotions, energy, and soul. I'd like to tell you just a little about myself to begin with. I am an energy healer. I am a medium, a channeler, a person who speaks with ascended masters, angels, and spirit guides. I'm also a life coach, and I have worked with many people in the process of facilitating their personal development, helping them attain that in life which is most meaningful to them. That's the work that I've done for about 10 years now, and in that time I've learned a great deal about the way people work, about how they function at both conscious and subconscious levels. I've taken that information and input it into this presentation, specifically to help you understand yourselves, to give you guidance in your lives, to give you the power to understand yourselves and to effect positive change in your life. In the main menu of this presentation, you can find a couple of self-examination tools that you can utilize to evaluate yourself, to understand yourself, and to guide yourself more precisely through this overall presentation. In addition, there's a glossary. I suggest you look over that information at your convenience, and I hope that all of this information benefits your life and gives you the happiness that you deserve. The human energy system, which all of you have, is a subtle energy system that surrounds your body and penetrates various areas of your body. And in so doing, it communicates information and energy from your environment, from people that you're interactive with, from spiritual beings, from your soul, from your high self, and from your past lives. It brings all that information and energy from all of those different aspects of reality, different dimensions, into your system. If you've heard the expression, if you move a grain of sand on the beach, you've changed the history of the world. It's true. There are domino effects from everything that you think, do, and say during your entire lifetime. You influence everybody. You may not be able to assess that influence at any particular moment in your life, yet it's always there. So the intent here is to bring about attaining conscious sensitivity to all of that without the discomfort of too much information or the discomfort of seemingly negative information or the discomfort of self-judgment or feeling judgment of others, without the discomfort of conflict. Reducing all of that so you can be calm internally, at peace, in a state of joy, enjoying life. The first step is quite often for a lot of people meditation. They meditate. They go within themselves. They find a quiet point within themselves. They learn to still their mind. They learn to turn off all the internal chatter that most people live with every day. You ever been trying to sleep and your thoughts constantly go through your mind and they won't quit, and you try to roll over this way and that way, it doesn't change the voices. Or maybe it does, but they don't go away. That process doesn't need to be that way. You can train yourself to be internally quiet. Sound like a worthwhile thing? So that when you're within yourself, it's kind of like sitting by the ocean. It's kind of like all you hear is the nice waves. Maybe a seagull. Other than that, not a lot. So that state of internal peace is attainable via opening your chakras, becoming consciously aware of more of life than you might currently be aware of, being consciously aware of who you are and how you function within yourself, and learning to manage that. Okay, let's talk just for a few minutes about the chakras themselves. If you look at the red cone extending from the tailbone of the individual in this diagram, that's the root chakra. The root chakra governs fight or flight instinct, primal issues, survival, fear of abandonment, fear of physical pain, suffering, or death, and also where you feel you fit within your family and within what they call the tribe or your surrounding community or your nation. That chakra extends all the way down to the center of the planet, by the way, to another chakra that's way outside your body that you don't even need to worry about at this time. That chakra can take over your life in an instant. If you are walking along thinking about high philosophical thoughts, or gosh, I love my family, or isn't the world a great place, and you're crossing the street and you weren't looking both ways and somebody pulls up and screeches their tires and honks their horn at you, are you still thinking about all of the wonderful, joyful, philosophical thoughts? Or does all that shut down? And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, got to get out of the way of this car. And you start running. The root chakra took over. It has the capacity, and by the way, there's an energy channel that flows all the way up through your body, from the center of the earth all the way up to your body, and a lot higher than you can see. And that energy channel, kind of like a garden hose, can be crimped. The root chakra can decide to crimp that energy at any moment it chooses, if you let it. And that means energy doesn't go to the higher chakras at that time. All of those chakras get shut down. That's like flipping the switch, turning the computer off. And that's, in a way, good. Because what that means is all of your life force and your energy are suddenly focused on your survival. And in the old days, before we had civilization and were evolved and understood ourselves as perfectly as we do now. In the old days, that was a good thing because you needed to survive. You might need to run away. The bears would be chasing you, or you might be in a war or something like that. And you needed to be focused on your survival, 100%. And you needed all of your force, all of your energy, all of your power, all of your minimized consciousness focused on your survival in the root chakra, and probably you're going to live. And then afterward, after the danger's passed, the root chakra relaxes, lets go, and the energy flows up to your body again. You get to think about love and philosophy and flowers and all the happy things. It's important to know about that, because if that chakra governs fear of abandonment and fear of survival, which are your only two fears, by the way, all the other fears you've got stem from those two. You might say, well, I'm afraid of milk, or I'm afraid of cars, or I'm afraid of traffic, or I'm afraid of flying, or all of those things are simply extrapolations or reflections of a root chakra fear that you've got. A twisted, reflected perspective on that event. You've created an association, a fear association between life and death, or abandonment, and flying. And it all happens at a subconscious level, so when you're in a situation where that particular fear is triggered, which chakra takes over? Root chakra. It takes over. And do you feel like, oh, I can't get on the plane, I'm afraid. I can't go up in the elevator, it's too high. I can't look over the edge, down off the top of the building because it's too high up, I might fall.
I have a question. So
Please.
Those are the feelings we have to be aware of, to pinpoint.
If you choose to. Now, I'll say later in the conversation that each of your chakras in most people functions relatively independently. So, when you're focused on survival, you're in your root chakra. When you're focused on romance, you're in your second chakra. When you're thinking about planning your project or work or whatever, you might be in your third chakra. When you're thinking about how much you love your children or your pets or whatever, you might be in your heart. When you're trying to be very articulate in speaking, you might be in your throat chakra, your communication center. Or if you're trying to see someone's energy, you might be in your sixth chakra. It's where you choose to be and where you choose to function that determines your experience of life. Now, I'll repeat that because it's very, very important. The chakra that you're in at the moment determines how you see your life. If you're in your root chakra and you're scared, you see the world as a scary place. Danger all around, people aren't helping, people might hurt me, etc. If you're focused in your third chakra and you're thinking through your laundry list or your plan for tomorrow or whatever, it's a very mental process. You're not feeling a whole lot about it probably. That focus is beneficial to a degree, and yet it's also a limitation. It's a limitation on experience because, believe it or not, you can be feeling love while you're making a project plan. You can be feeling love for other people and for yourself while you're speaking to a group of people. You can be feeling love in the midst of a potentially dangerous situation. And the way that happens? Well, first you got to open the chakras so they all work to begin with. If your heart chakra is not open, and by the way, unfortunately, and I work in my healing work, in the work I do with people to help them evolve and develop, I find many, many people who either don't have their heart chakra open at all, or it's minimally open, or it's damaged, or it's full of pain and recorded pain and suffering from previous events in their current lifetime or past lifetimes, so it doesn't work right. You ever heard the expression, putting a stick in the spokes of someone's bicycle? Well, what happens to the bicycle? It stops. Well, that's what these things do, the blocks, the fears, the pains, the suffering from past moments in life. The chakras spin, kind of like a wheel, and they interrupt that process. Those old pains interrupt the process of movement and flow of energy through your chakras and between your chakras and other people's chakras. By the way, if you've ever been truly in love with someone, you ever notice that you have a feeling in your heart? Sometimes your heart pounds. You feel a warmth there. You might feel a closeness to their heart. And if you've ever seen a bunch of little children in a schoolyard, if you walked up to 50 kids and you ask them, point to yourself, do they do this or this? No, they do this. Oh, that's me. They know where they are. They know that's the center, by the way, back behind here is what's termed the seat of the soul, behind your thymus gland. They know where they are. Kids know. We forget as we get older because we get involved with all this stuff we call adult life. However, children really, really understand the essence of what it means to be themselves. So they know how to get to themselves. They know how to address themselves. And we can learn to do that as adults if we want to. And it's a fun process. It's truly an interesting process. It's an adventure. It is an opportunity that you can have for the rest of your life. It's an investment in yourself. The more you invest in yourself, in your personal development, in your own healing, in your own personal consciousness of your life, today translates to a lifetime of benefit. Everything you heal today is healed for your whole life. Everything you learn today, you've learned for your lifetime. And if you believe in past lives and future lives, everything you learn today, you're going to know forever. To an immortal soul, learning something is a pretty good thing. So can you see why it would be beneficial to go ahead and endure being in a physical body, going through all the physical suffering and emotional suffering and pain and discomfort and fears and unknowns in order to get the learning and the knowledge that your soul will utilize for an eternity So we get trained. We get recorded roles. What a good man is, what a good woman is, what a good person is, what a good provider is, what a caring, loving mother is, what a good child is. We get programmed. We record the program. It's like a script in a movie. And then we live the script. And somebody says, but I want you to love me. And you say, but it's not in the script. Sorry, it's not happening. That's the next lifetime script. And they got to wait. You can tweak the script if you want. You can edit it consciously. Does that sound like an okay thing?
How? Yeah.
Very carefully. Very consciously. First, you got to become aware of the scripts. And everybody's got several. You've got to understand what it is that motivates you, what it is that your subconscious cares about, what it is your subconscious fears, what it is your subconscious believes. And when you do that, you can change it until you know. Now, this is a great question. Who here's been lost at some point in their life? You're trying to get somewhere, you're driving, and you're going, where the heck am I?
All the time.
Okay, so you call your buddy. You're going to their house, and you say, I'm lost, help me. And what's the first question they always ask?
Where are you?
Okay.
Might do that.
That says so much. Now, if you can't say, oh, I'm at the crossroads here, or I'm next to this big building, or something like that, they're going to say, well, I can't help you. You got to go find somebody nearby. If you know where you are, point A, either you can map your way to point B, or someone can help you get there. Otherwise, you're lost. Most people don't know when they're lost and when they're not. They're living via these unconscious scripts, beliefs, self-judgments, recorded roles, all those things, constantly, day after day after day. And they don't realize that from the standpoint of finding love, finding joy, finding inner peace, they're a little lost. Okay? They may read self-improvement books. They give them pieces of information. And that's a key thing here. They're not getting a comprehensive answer to where they are. They get a little bit of information. Oh, there's a road over there. I can't see the street sign, but it's 20 feet wide and there's a tree. Okay, so you know there's a road over there. So what? We accumulate knowledge throughout our lifetime, and we put the pieces of the puzzle of where we are together, and sometimes people have epiphanies. Oh my gosh, I've been doing that? Well, let's get out of that situation and get into a new one. And of course, quite often the new one they get into is either similar or worse. It's a new script, it's a new role. They tweaked the mechanism. You ever seen somebody who works on for the first time on a computer, they got no clue how to run the computer, and they just start pushing buttons. What happens? They don't know. They get lost in there. It's important to have a comprehensive picture to work with, a comprehensive system. And that's what we're attempting to create here, to provide for you a comprehensive methodology or process or way of you becoming aware of who you are, where you are, why you are, and in some cases when you are. So that you can then, and also in the process, where you want to go to. What life intention you want to set. Because when you know where you are, and you have a clear intention of where you want to go, a star to follow, so to speak, a goal in life, something that's meaningful for you, that's truly meaningful in your heart, by the way, not, oh, I want a new car, I want to have this house or whatever, something hopefully that has deeper meaning to you. Or maybe a family, maybe a certain relationship, maybe a certain experience of life. I want to be a jet pilot. or I want to be the captain of a ship or whatever. Whatever is meaningful for you is what's meaningful for you. Your soul's intention is your soul's intention. I'm going to tell you a secret here. You ready? You've all been born before. You've all lived before. You have all experienced life in many different environments, many different countries, as both men and women, by the way. Oh my gosh. How many times have you heard the expression, men are all bad? Or women are all bad? Or you can't live with them, you can't live without them. All those things. All of us have been the bad guy, or girl, or whatever, or bad kid. We've all been old. We've all been angry. We've all been afraid. We've all been ignorant. We've all been cruel. We've all been insensitive at some point. Right? Does that mean we're all bad? No. It doesn't. It truly doesn't. It means we're all developing and evolving lifetime by lifetime by lifetime. We're getting better. We're getting more conscious. We're getting more educated in a way through our experiences of life. We're learning to craft lifetimes better.
I have a question.
Please.
If we're supposed to be evolving into better human beings, why isn't the world better?
I didn't say better human beings.
Or better people, I mean.
Well, that's a good question. That's a very valid question. Every time we live a life, we get hurt. Can't get away from it. You're going to get hurt somehow. Either you're physically going to get hurt, someone's going to hurt you emotionally, you're not going to get what you want, you're going to do something that you regret, you're going to feel guilt, you'll feel shame, you'll be angry at yourself, you'll criticize yourself about something. All that happens. That's part of life. Life is messy. Learning is messy. It's like a big finger paint process. And yet, we do get, quote, better. Now, I'm not saying better in terms of there's good people and bad people, because that's dualistic thinking, it's judgmentalness, it's just a process of criticizing ourselves. I would suggest that you could say we become more evolved, we become more conscious, we become more aware, we become more loving towards ourselves and other people. Why hasn't that happened for everybody? Everybody's got past life stuff. Pain, sorrow, regret, habits, addictions, angers, fears, all of those things that they haven't let go of. It's like a ship dragging an anchor with it wherever it goes. You know, how fast do ships go if they're dragging anchors? Sometimes they stop. You can put up all the sails you want, and if you're dragging a lot of anchors, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to find that change, that evolution happening for you like that. You're not going to be experiencing the joyful moments rapidly. Oh yes, this is happy, that's happy, let's have happiness tomorrow and the next day and the next and the next. Having said that, there's another reason. People have free will. At any moment, we can choose to be happier, to help ourselves or other people, or we can choose to be insensitive, to say, I don't care about those people, I'm going to get what I want today. Darn it, no matter what it costs them. We can choose that at any moment. Now, you might say, oh, what a terrible thing. We could choose to do, quote, bad things. And yet, if you look at it from the perspective that if a person does things that hurt themselves or other people, do they usually do that knowingly? I mean, consciously. Not from their soul and their heart. If you were functioning from deep in your heart, you could not do things to hurt other people. You just couldn't do it. You couldn't kill anybody. A lot of people are killed in the world and die from being killed. If those people who killed them were within their souls, so to speak, they would rather die than kill. Okay? That's just the bottom line. All of this, our bodies, by the way, we choose our bodies in every lifetime. We make very careful choices about what kind of body. Everybody's got a slightly different body, genetically, energetically, physically. Your hair is different, your eyes are different. Everybody's unique. The body you have is the one you chose. It's the one you need in this lifetime to learn the lessons of this lifetime to meet your soul's intention. Having said that, if you are in a situation where you are experiencing what might be termed a bubbling up of a past life negative impulse, okay? It happens in the best of families, sorry to say that. You're generally speaking a nice, happy-go-lucky person, but somebody pushes a button from a past life. Okay? Let's say in a past life you were mugged and dragged off into an alley and hit over the head. And then they killed you and took your wallet or your purse. Well, certainly that kind of experience is not a very fun experience, right? So if you're walking down a dark street and somebody taps you on the shoulder out of a dark alley, all of a sudden, that memory is what's triggered. And that energy and that fear and that impulse from that past life makes you react, quote, makes you react, influences you to react in a very extreme way. So yes, you might say, oh no, I have to hit this person to save my life. What you're doing is reflecting upon that prior life decision that said, I didn't react in time to save my life in the last lifetime, I better do it this lifetime. And yet, you're making a decision based upon a memory rather than a current reality. The person tapping you on the shoulder is a friend of yours that was hanging out having a smoke at the movie theater, and they just want to say hi, and you broke their nose. Why? You say, oh, I was scared. You weren't scared. You weren't just scared. You were responding to a non-existent reality. You believed that it was now. In some part of yourself, you believed that was happening again, or at least might be happening again. So that's another reason why things don't always work well. Let's have a look at some chakras. Now, these are going to be what you might term stills of the chakras, starting with the root chakra. If you saw the red chakra that extends down from the tailbone into the ground, right? If you were to look up at the chakra, you'd see it's got 4 channels. Just 4, not 1,000, right? It's very simple. The root chakra, it's kind of for running high voltage, you might say, and simple. It's got to be simple. It's got to determine, is this situation going to kill me or not?
North, south, east, and west.
Yes. Which way are we going to run?
Not a lot of options.
It's simple. So, can you see how? And by the way, there are people who, in this lifetime still, somewhere on the planet, they only have their first or maybe their second chakra open. Can you imagine how simple their perspective on life is? Can you imagine having this conversation with them?
A little shocking.
A little shocking. So, it's good that this is simple, and yet it's important to realize a lot of things about it. If this simple chakra gets clogged up, it affects your whole system. The energy that's supposed to flow up from the earth, up through your system and keep you alive and motivate you and animate you and keep you healthy, runs into that and stops. Or worse yet, it gets distorted and echoes up through your system, which you probably don't want. So how many people are aware that this is happening within their systems to begin with? Not many. You're not taught this in school. They don't tell you that this can cause you difficulties. They don't tell you the kind of difficulties it can cause. And they don't tell you how to resolve the difficulties. For example, older men have a high rate of prostate cancer. Okay? That's right below the prostate. Okay? They say from the statistics I've read, at least 80% of men by a certain age will have prostate cancer of some sort. 80%. Is that a scary statistic, right? Can you see how imperative it is for survival to be aware of what's impacting your chakra at that level. It doesn't have to be that way, by the way. Yes.
So then the chakras, when they're stuck like that, affects your health, and illness comes.
Absolutely. Physical, mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual illness.
At all chakra levels?
Yeah, in a way, because all of your chakras echo and reflect back and forth through all the others. So if you've got an imbalance or a block of some kind anywhere in your body, it's going to affect other things. The root chakra more than a lot of them. That's also going to affect your perspective on your power in this lifetime. If you don't feel safe, if you've been taught by circumstance or by parental interaction or by past life karma that happens to bubble up into that chakra, that the world's a scary place, that you don't have any power, that you can't effect change in your life, that other people are stronger than you are you going to bother to change your life? Are you going to be fighting yourself? Consciously, I want a happy life, but gosh, I'm scared. Fighting my fear the whole way. So where's your progress? There's an old story about elephants in India. They take little baby elephants and they train them. And they put a big chain around their foot and chain them to a big tree. And the little elephants struggle and struggle and they tug on the chain. They're not going to break a heavy chain and they're not going to pull the tree up. So they say, oh, well, I can't break the chain. I'll just give up. And then later in life, in their lives, they just put a little rope around their foot and tie them to a stake. Now, this is an elephant. This is a powerful creature that could knock down buildings, and it assumes that it can't pull that stake out of the ground or snap that little rope based upon its past experience, based upon the misinterpretation of the past experience, right? It didn't understand, oh, this is a heavy chain, that's a big tree, I'm a little elephant. And now it's not understanding, that's a little stake in the ground, that's a little rope, and I'm a big elephant. So my choices are different. Yet once we get it ingrained at this level that we don't have power, we don't bother to try. Or we project out into the universe, drawing people in, giving us what we believe. So we get oppressed, we get an intimidating boss, or we get angry people who exact their power upon us. Or we get situations in which we appear and interpret ourselves to be powerless. Doesn't have to be that way. We can change that directly, effectively. And when you do, your experience of life, your experience of interaction with other people, your experience of your personal power, your ability to affect the world around you and to feel safe all the time changes permanently, if you choose to keep it permanent. So is it a good thing? Good thing to know about? Good thing to work on? It couldn't hoit? Now, what we've got here is also that this is a key component of groundedness. Groundedness is a vastly important concept. Groundedness is a conscious awareness of your connectedness to this world. Okay? From many different perspectives. Who you are in this world, how you relate to other people, how you relate to this planet. This physical conscious awareness of existence is determined in large part by your understanding of the quality of your groundedness. Now, you ever see anyone who is flighty? You know, they can't work, they can't be on time, they can't get things done, their checkbook is in balance, they don't get the mortgage paid on time, their clothes are all wrong all the time. They're not well grounded. And they don't know it. Groundedness is kind of like being ungrounded, is kind of like being drunk. I've never been drunk in my life, but I read a story about someone who was. It's like if you drink a beer and you feel lighter, less attached, buzzy, happy, have another beer, you're more and more and more. Well, people who are ungrounded are like that. and they don't know it, just as a person who's been drinking is not aware of the influence of the drinking on their decision making, on their interpretation of their environment, on their experience. So they go out and drive, right? Well, how many people are driving in an ungrounded state? How many people are living their lives in an ungrounded state? A lot. If your root chakra is blocked, it inhibits getting grounded, which means it inhibits your quality of decision making. It inhibits your awareness of life. It inhibits your ability to make discerning decisions. And because you don't know it, because a section of your consciousness has been turned off, maybe at a time you didn't even know it happened, you might have been ungrounded since birth, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're missing. You think, why am I like this? What did I do to deserve this? It's not that you did anything to deserve this, so to speak. It is an energetic pattern situation. It's just a mechanical situation in a way. There's no right or wrong to it. Now, it's important to understand your root chakra doesn't know right or wrong, good or bad. It doesn't understand philosophy. It doesn't understand God. It doesn't understand spirituality. It just wants to keep you alive. So you ever see these scary stories about the man and woman that supposedly love each other and they both fall off a boat or whatever and he's pushing her under the water to and until then he was the big, strong, caring guy. Or she was the loving, wonderful wife and she's pushing him underwater. The root chakra took over. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's survival. Really important. Segments of your thinking process, your cognitive capacity, go away, and you don't know it. After the fact, you say, well, I had to survive, or there was nothing I could do, and you rationalize it. And gosh, I'll miss her, or gosh, I'll miss him.
But then you had to go.
I had to live. So as we said in the beginning, the root chakra, by the way, it extends downward, certainly, but it also covers your body like a glove, very close to the skin. So it's part of your aura. Okay? Your second chakra, which emanates from just below your belly button, or actually from the spine, but comes out here. The second chakra moves out through that energetic covering of the root chakra. It interpenetrates it. It goes out and it goes around again. So it's another layer. Now that's important because the second chakra, as it goes through the root chakra's energy layer, there's communication between them. Okay, that's important. By the way, in the long run, although we've been saying that you have all these different chakras, and they're segmented, they're separate, they function on their own for most people, and you're constantly jumping between them. And you might have a favorite chakra, by the way. You know, some people are always in their heart, or some people are always in their mind, some people are always thinking about sex, some people are always thinking about survival. Okay? I mean, you know people like that, right? They've chosen their favorite chakras, right? So we have the capacity to blend the chakras. There are what are called ethereal barriers between them that keep that blending from occurring. They keep you segmented. It's a set of training wheels, just like on a bicycle. When you get to a point when you're riding a bicycle, you don't need the training wheels anymore. Have you gotten to a point where they kind of inhibit you from riding the bike as well as you could? Yeah, you can't lean this way, you can't turn fast, it's always catching on something. Well, that's the same way with the chakras. You get to a point, you open your chakras, they develop, and then all of a sudden you start to realize, I'm jumping through all my chakras back and forth here. Why don't I just clear away those barriers and act as a single unit? Me. So I'm always me, the same me. Not the mental me, not the emotional me, not the intellectualized me, not the relationship or sex-oriented me, and certainly not the survival me. Just me. All the time, 24/7. Can you see how that simplifies communications? simplifies decision making. You have one perspective on life all the time. And that's not boring, by the way. It's simple. It's simpler. All this other stuff we've been talking, that's the complication. When we get stuck in one chakra and one perspective on life, and we're saying, that's the way life is. That's the way I see it. And we try to make other people live that way. That creates complication and conflict. That creates drama. I know we've never seen drama, but it is a word. You could look it up. So the second chakra, it's a little further away from your body, yet it covers your entire body. It envelops you. It's, again, part of your aura. The second chakra is different in a couple of ways for men and women. See, men, I don't want to tell any secrets here, but men have different relationships or beliefs about sex than women, different reactions and different perspectives on relationships than women. I know that's news, but don't let it shock you. It'll be all right. We'll get to an answer. Okay, women's second chakra, women's anatomy is different. Internal anatomy is different than a man's. Okay? When women are talking about sex, it's connected to their second chakra, ovaries, things like that. Okay? They bring emotion into the relationship in that way. Sex is not about sex. It's about relationships, emotions, connectedness, love, affection, all those things. Men aren't always that way. Not that they're not loving. It's just they can be more primal. Okay? The reason I say that is this. Men are root chakra connected when it comes to sex. Women have root chakra and second chakra. So women have a bit more awareness of the implications of their decisions in regard to intimacy, in regard to relationships, and that's why men are always trying to catch up. Do you know what you did? You did this and this and this. And he's saying, huh? I was just watching TV. Well, women process the experience differently than men. They process the relationship at a different level than men. Men and women aren't taught this when they're little. Neither way is right or wrong. They're just different in that way. If men and women can understand each other from those perspectives and accept that they're simply, at least in terms of early developmental stages, and by that I mean people who haven't spent years doing spiritual work or healing themselves, stuff like that. I mean, just average person. If they can understand that they do have those differences, and they're not just biological differences, they're energetic differences, they're processing differences in the way they interpret and respond to situations and relationships. If they understand those differences and can accept that it's just the way we're designed, that there's been an old primal purpose in it, I mean, certainly there has been a primal purpose in it in the long run for the survival of the race, certainly. Make sure there's lots of children on the planet. And also make sure that whoever's got the children, I mean, at least is going to care, is going to be connected, is going to see it from a perspective of personal connectedness to the child. Now, I'm not suggesting, obviously, that men don't have that. What I am suggesting, though, is that without significant facilitation in their development, men don't always have as much of a connection to that, because while women are being socialized in their role as mothers and things like that, men are being taught to suppress their emotions. They got to be strong. Let's get all that emotional stuff out of the way and get to the truth of the matter. The mental perspective.
I have a question.
Please ask.
How can a person that does not believe in energies map this?
If you're not willing to accept these kinds of relationships of energy, emotion, relationship, interaction, and karma and all that, you can't get to the understanding of how to let it all go. We all have many, many different facets to us, and they can all be developed, and in different people they are. There's people who are men who are very, very empathic, meaning the second chakra, empathy. They really care. Good counselors, good doctors, good teachers. They can connect with the people that they are working with, that they're interacting with, and they can give based upon that intimate, empathic connection. Okay? Now, usually those kinds of people were raised by people who had that orientation, right? Or they were raised by people who didn't at all. So they had motivation. They were so hurt a lot of times that they had motivation to learn to be loving because nobody was given that to them. They learned to understand what other people were thinking and feeling. Now, by the way, second chakra is also where codependency is often located. It's usually a combination of the first and second chakra for a few reasons we can get to later. However, codependency, kind of a state of not knowing your own boundaries as an individual. Feeling like you've got to be in control of some other situation, or you've got to be the one who's responsible for somebody else rather than yourself. Okay? Now, everybody's got some of that in some situation, especially parents for their children. You know, you're not going to probably say, oh, yeah, they're 2 years old. Let them run off down there by the water. They'll be okay, I'm sure. You probably think, oh, my gosh, get them away from the water. I've got to control them. I've got to keep them corralled here, keep them safe, all those things. There are benefits to being empathetic. Okay? It's a spectrum. It's not codependent or not codependent. That's not accurate. It's a spectrum of being able to be empathetic, meaning to understand, to walk in the other person's shoes a little bit in order to understand. Because if you can do that, then you can understand. If you're walking around in their shoes all day long saying, oh, no, they should go this way. No, they better go this way now. That's a little much. It puts a lot of stress on a person, by the way. A lot of people are brought up that way. If you've ever been in a crowd of people, it's not unusual. Let's say you got 500 people in a room and somebody drops a tray of glasses. Some part of a lot of people in that room might be thinking, did I do that? Or what did I do to make that happen? Obviously, they did nothing to make that happen. And yet, a part of them has been taught either by their parentage, by the roles that their parents gave them, that they were responsible for their parents' problems, therefore they're responsible for everybody's problems, that sort of thing. And they don't know what's happening. They don't realize that that's what's happening. They just feel responsible. And once, by the way, your chemistry is triggered, your feelings of responsibility for other people, it feels real. If you have chemistry, if you have that chemistry going on in your body, it feels real. There we assume that if our chemistry is going, that it is real. It's not. It's how you've interpreted the situation. You could interpret that as, gosh, they need to hire a new waiter. Or, gosh, somebody that I don't know and will probably never meet might have bumped into them. Gosh, maybe they need to train the waiter. Gosh, that poor person was carrying so many glasses that they fell to the floor. I really feel for them. There's a lot of different ways to interpret that rather than, what did I do to make that happen?
So is that a way to avoid oneself from looking inside oneself?
In a lot of ways it is. Now, we haven't gotten into this yet, and it's very important that we do. At the root chakra level, when a person's a baby, they look out at the world assuming that they are the one that's controlling everything. They have that perspective as a survival instinct in a way. The baby has to believe that they can control their parents. Okay? Would you want to feel that you were in a situation where you could not control that which was keeping you alive? Would that be scary? So can you see how if a person's a baby, they're aware of their parents, They are trying to stay alive and to be happy and not to feel uncomfortable and not to get abandoned. If their parents got upset with them, say as a baby, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, they don't interpret it as, gosh, my parents really are dysfunctional. Wonder what screwed them up. Sure wish Grandma and Grandpa had taught them better. That's not how babies and little children interpret it. They think, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? What do I have to do in order to change the situation to make it better? Because they want control. They're afraid of not having control. Can you see how it would be much scarier for them to believe that their parents were dysfunctional and might drop them, or might not feed them, or might treat them bad, or might do anything that they could even imagine negative towards them? Can you see that they'd rather see themselves as being the cause of those things and thus to some degree in power, rather than believing that all of these giants around them are impacting them without their permission? Now, once you get in that perspective as a child, as a baby, 1, 2, 3, even 4 years old, once you get in that perspective, it's ingrained in your subconscious. And we know what happens when things are ingrained in your subconscious. They drive the bus for you. They make your choices for you. They interpret life for you to such an extent that you don't even know what's going on. And you rationalize why you made this choice or that choice. Well, I had to stay in this relationship because blah, 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 blah. When really, it was fear of rejection or fear of seeing yourself as not being in power. You know, that's an important thing there. If I'm in I'm unhappy in the relationship, but I'm staying in the relationship because I'm in power. Not because I'm afraid of being abandoned, not because I'm afraid of being separate from other people. Did I get that across okay? Okay. So, energy boundaries. Oh, by the way, if somebody walks up to you this close that you've never met before and says, "Hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you." Do you feel comfortable? No. Oh, come on, they're just real close. What's wrong with that? Maybe they're nice. Well, you've got energy boundaries around you. You've got a space. You know, the psychologists may talk about your comfort zone or whatever. The bottom line is it's energy. Now, are there some people that even people you've just met, you kind of want to be near them. You kind of want to be close. It's nice. They feel nice. You don't put it into words. You just, I think this is a nice person. I think I'll go talk to him. Compared to somebody you walk into a room with and you say, whoa, I don't want to be anywhere near that person. Just look at them. Well, it's not that you're looking at them with your eyes. It's your energy. You're feeling them. They've got some problem. They got some difficulty. They're angry. They're fearful. They're worried. They're stressed. There's something that is not harmonious with your current energy state. Now, what if you are all worried and scared and stressed? Do you maybe want to find somebody that you resonate to? Another scared, worried, stressed person? Do you see why people talk when they're worried or when they're stressed? Commiseration, gossiping, just interacting, talking. Important thing though, whatever you resonate to becomes your default energy state. Okay, now that is probably one of the most important things I've said so far. Go ahead.
Could you please define default energy state?
Yes. Yes, I can. Okay, how many people like music? Everybody? Some music, not all the same music. Everybody has some music that they like to resonate to. You either tap your foot, you sway to the music, you dance, whatever, or you sing. You resonate to it. While you're resonating to that music, whatever it is, your chemistry changes. Your blood chemistry, your heartbeat changes, your breathing changes, your emotions, all those things change because you've resonated to that energy of that music. Now, let's take the flip side of the situation. You ever see on television they show a bunch of people upset in a in a suburb or in a city somewhere, and all of a sudden someone grabs a trash can and throws it through a window, and then everybody turns crazy and they riot? Well, they resonated. They resonated to the negative vibration. Okay? Did they have to? No. They chose to at a subconscious level. For the most part, subconscious. Afterward, do you think they liked themselves for being in a riot and breaking things? No, they have a chance to rethink that and say, gosh, this TV set I took is kind of from the window it's kind of nice, but now I got to look at it and feel guilty every day. So you could say that what we choose to resonate to determines our decision making to a good degree. Now let's say you resonate to spirituality, to God, to Buddha, whoever your personal spiritual divine source is. Do you think that if you resonate with that energy all day, every day, that you're going to make your decisions differently? Every decision. Now, let's say that you hang around with friends and they're cranky all the time. They yell, they drink, they smoke, they fight, all those sorts of things. And you resonate with them. Do you think that affects your decision making? It decreases your energy frequency. Okay, now that's another term that we're going to use multiple times here. Energy frequency. The speed of the energy. Root chakra is very slow. Okay? It'll keep you alive. It can't do math, though, and it's not going to be able to figure out philosophy or spirituality. So for what it does, it's pretty fast. You have fast reactions, dodging cars, things like that. However, the higher you get up in the chakras, the higher frequency. Seventh chakra is a very high frequency of energy. A lot happening. Fast. Instantly. Instantaneously. If you've got all your chakras open and your 7th chakra, your 8th chakra, your 9th chakra, which is, we will be talking about, 1.5 feet above your head, give or take. If you're resonating at that level, there's a lot happening fast in you all the time. It doesn't mean you have to talk real fast. Yet you become aware instantly of situations. You understand things in depth. Okay? You walk into a room, you see a group of people, you understand who they are as individuals, how they're interacting, how they feel, what they want in life, what they're resonating to, where their energy frequencies are at any particular moment. You know that instantly as soon as you walk in the room. And you're conscious enough, if you retain that energy frequency, to make wise decisions in regard to your interactions with them. If you walk into a room and a bunch of people are all cranky, are you going to want to resonate to that? No. But are you also going to want to walk in and say, you people are all wrong for being cranky. I think you should stop now, because I said. You're probably going to get schwacked. Yet you can walk in at a higher frequency and say, hey, what's happening? Or, how about the latest football game? Or distract them off into something that's going to bring them a little bit of fun for a little while. And you don't have to interact at those levels or frequencies of energy if you don't choose to. The key is, can you retain your energy frequency consciously or not? Yes or no? Because if the answer is no, you're at the mercy of resonating to other people's energy. If you work in a corporation that's got a very competitive stance on everything, that's a real go-getter, go for the throat every time, make the sale, make money. If you resonate to that, that's the way you're going to make decisions. And you may not even realize or choose to realize the implications of resonating to that for many years. Some people will say, well, I got to make a buck. I got to live, I got to survive. And they focus, root chakra, that keeps them locked in that kind of environment, rather than finding a more peaceful, joyful place to work where people treat each other nice, where they're respected, where the company understands, or at least cares to understand their needs, and where they have a chance to have a more fulfilling experience of work. More freedom perhaps, more power, more autonomy. All of those things are possibilities if you choose what organizational frequency you want to resonate with. If you look at it from that standpoint and you hold that awareness in your mind, your choices can bring you to great opportunity. And by great opportunity, I'm not talking about making lots of money or a nice house or whatever. I'm saying great fulfillment in life. You can get to be who you want. You can get to experience what you want. And you can do it by being around a bunch of people who are nice. Would that be okay? And they'd respect you for it. They wouldn't say, oh gosh, look at that person. Patricio got a promotion and a raise. Oh, I'll get him for that. So if you are aware of what you resonate to, and if you're consciously aware of your energetic environment all the time, you have more options. You have more freedom of choice. You have more potential to apply your free will to every situation that you meet up with. You've heard of feng shui, I assume? Yeah, feng shui. You take a building that you're in and you analyze the energy flow that goes through it. You feel it. Well, there's a lot of techniques that you can use to kind of map the energy flow, what needs to be changed, and those are technical ways, or if you're sensitive to the energy, you can actually feel it. And you can say, well, if we put a little fountain here, we put a plant there, change these pictures, get a little more light in here, all of a sudden the entire environment is much nicer. It's peaceful, it's joyful, it's calm. When you go, if this is your home, when you go home, as soon as you walk in the door, it doesn't matter what stresses you've been in the world, you suddenly feel better. Because you're resonating with the energy of that environment, and you have consciously chosen to define that environment for yourself because you love yourself. Yes! So, is it worth, if you know you've got to live in a house until you die, you might end up in a home or a hospital, but before that, does it make sense? If that's true, if you're going to have to live in some building for the rest of your life, if you want to be sheltered from the weather, is it true to say that you would benefit by having it be a calm, loving place? Okay, believe it, I've worked in clearing different places, by the way. I've worked in buildings that were surrounded by a hospital, juvenile detention center, home for the criminally insane, and another place which I've forgotten.
Halfway house.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think maybe the energy of this place was having a little bit of problems with all this energy from all these surrounding potentially negative environments? Yes. This was a store, by the way. Things weren't selling. We were able to, you might say, encapsulate that environment so that when people walked by, they felt, whoa, that's nice. I want to go in there. I want to buy stuff. I don't care. I want to be in a place because all this around here, ooh. It was that different. It was that nice. That is your option to do in your own home. That's your option to do in your workplace. You know, some workplaces, you know, you're not allowed to bring in plants. You know, if you were to say, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a fountain or a little waterfall over there? I say, are you crazy? Wait, that's not in the budget. They're not concerned. Their focus might be third chakra, or it might be root chakra. That doesn't take into account your needs as a person, your needs as an emotional individual, a sensitive individual to your environment. Now again, going back to our metaphor in the beginning, if you get used to a very hot climate or a very cold climate, you desensitize. Do you think maybe you've desensitized yourself to a lot of places and not even realized it? You might now be able to walk into almost any corporate environment and say, oh, this place is nice. Whereas if your home was nice and calm and peaceful, you'd walk into the same place and say, oh, fingernails on a chalkboard. I don't want to be in here. This is not me. This is not my life. This is not the way I want to experience my life. Again, if you're conscious of your energy frequency and your energy frequency is high and you're conscious of your energetic environment, you can make decisions that bring you consistent, joyful experience of life. You've always had free will, by the way, and you always will. The question is, how conscious of it are you? How conscious of your choices are you? That's where free will really becomes free will. You know what you're choosing. If you're not aware of what you're choosing, free will kind of gets swept under the rug. It becomes subconscious, just chugging through life, go to work, go home, watch TV, go to sleep. Over and over and over again. Okay, third chakra, right here in your midriff area. It emanates from your spine also, out through the front and through the back. The third chakra is the chakra that is called the mental chakra. It's also called your power chakra. It's the place in which you do a lot of thinking, a lot of mental activity, a lot of planning, a lot of analysis. It's also a point in which you decide what you deserve in life. Now let's talk about that. What do you all deserve?
To be happy,
Good. What else?
to be loved and loved,
Good. What else?
healthy,
Everything come my way.
Prosperity.
health,
Health. What else? Connection to spirit, perhaps?
yes,
Conscious awareness of your relationship. Yeah, spiritual development. And a feeling of security, to be able to feel safe all the time. How many people feel safe every moment of every day? So I know people who don't feel safe any moment of any day. All day long, they're worried about people are going to hurt them, or things might turn out well. They might have to judge themselves for something they might do in the future. And they're busy with all that. They don't feel safe. They don't feel connected to this world, to this reality, to this experience of life in a way that brings them joy, brings them peace, brings them abundance, brings them health, brings them happiness and love. So if they don't have that, if they're busy doing all those other things, is it important that they get whatever information or energy or whatever that would help them get to a point where they did have that feeling of safety? Yeah. If you don't feel safe, can you enjoy life? No, it's a constant state of stress. It's a constant state of worry. Do you think maybe the world's become a more stressful place in general? The competition is increased. Yes. The economy's having difficulties here and there. There's wars. There's fears of, again, all those things we talked about. That creates stress. That creates a feeling of not being fully safe. That, you can say, oh, I'm safe now, but what about 10, 20 years? Well, people look forward to that, and they take that feeling, that interpretation of a potential future that's not very happy, and they apply it to the moment. And they take away the potential for the joy of the moment by not living in the now and not seeing what's really happening right now, all of it. I'm hoping that we can all move to our heart chakras, which will be our next topic, and learn to do that in a very, very multidimensional way, in a very comprehensive way, in a very gentle way. Very gentle with ourselves and gentle with each other. The heart chakra is unusual in that it's got 7 chambers to it. There's a chamber down here, by the way, and that's where you feel basic things about yourself in regard to relationships. Do I deserve to be loved? Do I deserve to be happy? Am I good enough in a relationship to, to warrant them treating me with gentleness, kindness, and warmth and all that? And then 6 other chambers. Each chamber more and more spiritual, a higher frequency of love, more and more towards unconditional love. Okay? Now, this might just be my perspective. It's my understanding that God doesn't judge, by the way. A lot of people might believe that God judges people, but in my understanding, God or Spirit or Divine Source, however you'd like to phrase it, is unconditionally loving. Okay? So can you see how the higher you get in your heart chakra in your development, the more you resonate with that? The more that becomes your reality all the time. Would that be okay? You can do it. Every single one of you can do it. And we're going to do our best to show you how. Throat chakra. Again, we talked about it in depth in terms of its facilitation of communication. Now, in terms of clairaudience, by the way, speaking with spirit guides, believe it or not, you have spirit guides, and there's more than a dozen of them here right now. People that you've known in the past, people that help you make decisions, people that are constantly talking to you, they constantly giving you information. If you've ever been in a situation and you thought, maybe I ought to turn right rather than left, and it turned out to be a really good decision, well, it's quite possible that you got a little message to help you with that. Or you got a wonderful creative idea. You thought, what a wonderful thing I could do. I could start this business, or I could make this creative work, whatever it is. Where'd that come from? Probably not your ego. Yet your ego probably believes it was you. Oh, look at what I thought of. I'm so wonderful. I must be powerful. I must be safe and secure. The ego is all about safety and security, by the way. Now, we haven't talked about how the ego gets created. Yet you might say that a lot of the components of the ego, it's made up of a lot of things, by the way. It's not just a little person in you or a part of your identity that talks to you. It's made up of your past life patterns, your behaviors that were ingrained in other lifetimes. It's made up of negative karmic patterns. It's made up of fear reactions that were ingrained into you in past lives or your current life. It's made up of misperceptions of reality that you attained when you were a child and that you recorded and that you assumed were reality. How many kids have a really comprehensive perspective on reality, as at least as comprehensive as an adult? I'm not saying they're not smarter and wiser. I'm just saying how in-depth is their understanding of relationships, economics, spirituality, all those things. Generally, they don't have the ability to dice it up, you might say, and to see the whole panorama. Having said that, the ego is also made up of the consensus consciousness connection, meaning that you have a constant feed from your environment, from the world, from your nation, from your corporation, from your family. You have a family consensus consciousness, by the way. And these different aspects of energy that are just big bubbles of recordings, you might say, we call culture and tradition and things like that, they're constantly bombarding your system. And by the way, they tend to connect at the back of your chakras, by the way, rather than the front. The front of your chakras is generally more interactive with what you think is reality. The back of your chakras is generally more connected to multidimensional reality, people who've passed on, the consensus consciousness connection, things like that. More abstract stuff, you might say. Most people are not very cognizant of their backside of their chakras functions, even if they're very aware of the front. I'd suggest that both sides, being aware of both sides is a very beneficial thing. The 6th chakra is the road to doing that, to accomplishing that, by the way. Through the 6th chakra, you can see energy. You can see your own chakras. You can see other people's chakras. You can see the energy that moves between you and other people. You can decide to accept or reject negative energy from another person. By the way, other people can make you sick. Okay? If you've ever had to work next to a very upset, angry person for a year or two, that person's energy is bombarding you every day, all day. And it's a constant drag on your system. It decreases your energy frequency. Yes?
So through the sixth chakra, you can determine what's making you sick, and if you have a negative energy, someone that's working with you or works next to you that's always negative, you can tell where it's coming from your sixth chakra?
If you develop your sixth chakra enough, to a high enough degree, you can.
To be aware.
Oh yeah. A lot of people are aware anyway. They feel it. They go, I don't like to sit next to Bill. He's always yelling. I always feel bad. I always get a stomach ache when I'm next to Bill. I always have to take Malox when I talk to Bill. that sort of thing. They know that there's a problem, right? They don't know what it is. They don't realize that perhaps Bill is angry at people he feels are in competition with him. Therefore, he takes a negative bit of energy from his third chakra, his power chakra, and drives it right through your aura and tries to mess with your chakras to try to make you be the person he wants so that he wins. And you don't realize when you're talking to him in a conversation, in a meeting, that all of a sudden, all those ideas that you had, all the creative ideas that you were thinking of, gosh, couldn't we do this and this and this? They're suddenly gone. And all you hear is Bill, blah, 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 blah. Because he has had the capacity to interrupt your energy system to the extent that he shut down your higher level chakral functions. He put a stick in the spokes of your bicycle.
Then how can we overcome?
Baseball bat. Hit him at, oh no, that's another conversation. It's different chakra. Through conscious awareness. If you can, it's like this. Let's say, just for the sake of discussion, you ever seen these little robot vacuum cleaners? They'll run all over on a little pre-programmed course, right? Well, if you watch the little vacuum cleaner, you're not going to let it run into your feet, especially not your bare toes, right? Well, Bill's a lot like that. Bill is functioning on autopilot. Bill is unconscious and angry and wants to hurt other people and wants to stop other people from taking the credit that he wants. So he's going to attack you energetically. Okay? However, having said that, Bill is no more conscious than that little robot. So if you can see the robot, all you say, oh, robot's coming by. Didn't hurt my toes. I'm okay. And yet, the robot cleans the floor. So maybe Bill does his job in the company. He's unconscious, and if you just see when and where the energy is going to come out in a certain way from Bill, you step aside from it, let it go on by, and there's no problem. No illness on your part. You don't have to take Malox. You don't have to feel depressed. Your energy frequency doesn't go down. You don't get embarrassed in meetings because you're not creative. Bill doesn't get to take all the credit for everything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You can become cognizant of another person's energy so much so that you can dodge back and forth anything that they might attempt to throw at you, as if they were in slow motion, if you choose to. It's a question of choice. It's a question of awareness. It's a question of consciousness. It's a question of energy frequency. The only people that can, when you're at that state, the only people that can hurt you are the people that you choose not to get out of the way of. And you say, well, why would anyone choose not to get out of the way? Why would they allow themselves to be hurt by somebody else? Well, all the people that have the first, second, third, fourth chakra stuff that says, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve a happy life, my mother never loved me, my father never loved me, I never satisfy anyone, I've got to make up for all my faults, I judge myself and criticize myself for this and this and this and this. Those are the people who are so busy internally fighting with themselves that Bill bops them. And then they get upset at Bill. So their life decreases in quality again. Yes?
So Bill, in a sense, is hitting them inside the head to wake them up and make them aware.
He is the second string.
The second. The first one is your choice to let it happen.
Well, you could say you've got spirit guides that are saying, you know, Bill doesn't like you. You might want to get out of Bill's way. If you don't listen, if you're not sensitive enough, if all you hear is your internal stuff, your internal self-talk, and you self-sabotage through that method, then you need some way to get woke up, to be awakened gently by Bill. Schwack! If you didn't, now let's talk about just for a moment, and this is important, the concept of pain. How many people like pain? Come on, get them up there. Yes, there's always one. How many people could be alive today if they didn't feel pain?
No.
Everybody be dead. Wonder what happens when you run a sword through you. I don't know. Thud. If you didn't have pain as an information source, as a part of your experience, there's a lot of things you wouldn't be motivated to be aware of. Now, how many people have burned their hand on a stove or an iron when they were a little kid, or on their tongue on hot food at some point in their lives? Everybody? You learn. You think, oh gosh, I don't think I'll put my hand on the hot stove anymore. Hopefully. Not everyone learns as quick as others, though. So pain is a useful part of the educational mechanism when it's in balance, when we're in balance. Okay? You ever seen somebody who's a hiker and they're walking along and they start to get a little blister on their toe? Well, then you could say, some hikers would say, I'm going to be conscious here. I feel a little irritation there. I'm going to stop. I'm going to put a Band-Aid on and continue. Other people, some people might say, I'm not going to wimp out. I'm going to proceed on no matter what, because that's what a man would do. And of course, the man would end up with a blister. If you are cognizant of what the pain is telling you, if you're capable of consciously interpreting the implications of the pain now and in the future, okay, then you can make wise choices. Pain becomes your best friend. Now, men are taught, by the way, to be strong, to endure pain, to take the pain, and to keep going, and to be willing to take pain. And you could say it's a noble thing in a way. I mean, many men have the conscious awareness in their head, so to speak, that if anyone ever tried to hurt their family, that it would be their responsibility to fight to save the family. Well, most people these days really don't need someone to fight to save the family physically. And yet that's still in the culture, that's still in the consensus consciousness that men are supposed to be that way. So men are supposed to suppress their emotions, because if they don't let themselves feel the pain, then they'll keep working. They'll work and they'll work and they'll work and they'll work. And of course, men generally die younger than women. Okay? It's unfortunate, and yet it happens. They apply stresses to themselves, and they are expected to socially to do so in a lot of cases, at least in the past. Things are changing now. And this is another key component of where all of these chakras map to the change that's happening. How many women like it when their husbands are insensitive, don't listen, don't spend time with them, don't care about intimacy, and don't resonate to their emotions? Raise your hands. Come on. No? Expectations of men are changing. The old paradigm of the tough guy is going by the wayside. It needs to. Women are hoping, wanting, generally speaking, as far as, and I work with a lot of different women in the work I do, healing work and psychic work. And they want their man to understand them, to care about them, to be sensitive to them, to love them, to be committed to them, to focus on them, to give them attention. And yet, so they want their man now to be more emotional. See, but we're in a transition period here. Men were taught to be unemotional, to suppress all that stuff. Now the women are saying, bring out those emotions, we want them. And they're saying, huh? What do you mean, emotions? They're saying, okay, well, I'll try. I'll do my best. And they're really giving it their all, by the way. They're really working hard. They are, fortunately or unfortunately, many men are sacrificing. They're going through a lot more pain than you could imagine in an attempt to become the kind of men that their women want. Okay? That's really important to understand. Now, women have this very evolved perspective on emotions. They've been developing this for a long time. They're good at it. And of course, they can look at men and say, okay, where's the emotions? Is that good enough? No. A little more. Okay, a little left, a little right. So they can say that they hope and expect that their man is going to be different emotionally. And of course, their man may emotionally be playing catch up. And, by the way, he still might have a belief that being a man means not being told what to do. Ooh. See. Bing, conflict. So men are trying to be more emotional, trying to be more fulfilling partners to their women, and that's a good thing. Men are becoming much more emotional these days than they have been in the past, more open with their emotions. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing. It is a blessing. It is bringing balance to men and women in relationships. So everything's fine, right? No divorce rate, no conflict. Everyone understands each other now? Not yet. During all times of transition, and we're in a state of transition, we're shifting from an old paradigm to a new paradigm. We don't know what the new paradigm is, though. We've got the flip side, right? Instead of saying, I don't know where I am, and I'm going to call the person who knows, we have a little bit of awareness of where we are, and we have no idea where we're going or what we want. Because, believe it or not, there are still women who, in spite of, they want their man to be emotional, intimate, gentle, kind, sensitive, considerate, all that, and strong, and insensitive in certain situations.
Be a man.
To be a man and yet be other things. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm simply suggesting that since we're in transition and men are learning to do that effectively in some cases, not as effectively in others, depending upon how they were brought up, their parents' expectations, what town they live in, what country they live in, all sorts of things, and their personal karma, by the way, which may drive them in any particular direction. Men are getting there, and yet it's very important that in order for men to get there and for women to get there and for them to stay together in the process, that the process that's being gone through be understood by both parties. Otherwise, you can't manage your own expectations. You can't be aware of your expectations, you can't manage them, you can't bring peace, and if you can't, how can you consciously make decisions that end up in love? You see how simple a configuration it is? It's only got two channels. The root chakra's got 4, and it's simple. How can this wonderfully complex chakra only have 2? How can it? Yeah, that. Yes, they're. This is a new level of subtlety. This is high-level stuff. you could call it formless. It can be anything. Is there any limit to what you can visualize?
No.
Any limit? I mean, dimensionally, color, size, scope, what things you would envision? You could envision a purple elephant wearing a bonnet. Yes, or Mickey Mouse running through here. You can envision anything. There aren't limits to it. And it needs to be flexible. The seventh chakra, arguably one of the most complex chakras, or maybe the most complex it's considered an in-body chakra, even though it's kind of on top of your head. Your connection to your higher self, your connection to spirit goes through that chakra. Very important. What happens if you've got damage to that chakra? Or blocks? You think you're going to... Your spiritual capacity is diminished. Your ability to conceptualize yourself as a spiritual being is diminished. And again, you don't know it. Or if you know it, it's by reflection. It's interacting with someone else and saying, gosh, those people are so spiritual and I just don't get it. Or why are they so spiritual? I pray and pray and pray and I don't get what they're getting. I don't feel the same way they appear to feel. It's really important. If you can become conscious of your seventh chakra function, you can facilitate your own development spiritually. Would that be nice?
Yes.
It couldn't hurt. The seventh chakra is higher consciousness. Now, what is higher consciousness? Come on, it's in there.
Is it like some type of food?
Yes, that's what it is. Well, could you consider your root chakra, I mean, higher and lower consciousness, it really doesn't have an exacting, precise description. You don't get an exacting, precise description from higher and lower consciousness. Your root chakra is not a low consciousness. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not negative in any way. It is what you might call lower frequency consciousness, yet it serves a purpose. If you didn't have a root chakra, you wouldn't be alive. You couldn't exist. You couldn't make decisions in ways that keep you alive. It has its downside. It's also got its pluses. Consciousness is what makes it more useful. So the seventh chakra, it's higher consciousness, spiritual consciousness, the ability to get closer to what might be termed divine source, or your connection to divine source if you believe in souls, in your higher self, in your spirit. You can, through your heart or through your seventh chakra, get closer to the essence of who you truly are. Beyond all of the day-to-day stuff, you can get into what you truly love the most. The essence of who you are as a being. Some people say God consciousness. You can get way out there in a good way. Yet you can't get there unless you go through here or through here. Whether fortunate or unfortunate, that's the way we're designed. By whoever you choose to believe in. Okay, so it says here, stimulates inspiration, higher consciousness, wisdom, and understanding. What does it mean to understand something? That's a very different thing to say than to say, I know something. I can know that this is made of wood. Does that mean I understand what it's made of? No. I could be a carpenter all my life. I could work with wood my entire lifetime and not understand what wood is. I could really pick up on a lot of characteristics. Oh, this is a very soft wood, very hard wood. This particular wood takes paint or varnish in a certain way. I could become a great craftsman and never understand what wood is. So is understanding a beneficial thing? Does it give you a deeper insight into all aspects of life, potentially, that you could not achieve by mere knowledge? Just from personal experience, my meager experience, spiritual oneness is the way to go. It's
peaceful. It is joy. It is feeling completely, totally loved. Without question, without judgment, without equivocation, without condition. It's being loved, and it's being able to have the opportunity to be consciously aware of it when it's happening.
Wouldn't that not only come from the seventh chakra, but that oneness that you're describing, the spiritual oneness, wouldn't that only be able to happen if all 7 chakras were resonating in balance at some level? Or you can actually have that just being in the upper chakras and not?
Or the heart.
Well, right, but that's still upper.
Yeah, true.
So wouldn't
Four
that
up.
true bliss kind of have to come from the resonance of all 7 being in balance to some degree?
I would say yes and kind of yes.
Okay.
With this equivocation.
Okay.
And it's kind of an unfortunate equivocation. There are lots of people. I've worked on people who've been in like an ashram, say, for 20 years. Okay? A very laudable goal in life to be in such a spiritual place, to get to resonate with the spirituality in such a focused and consistent manner, and to develop your upper chakras. And they leave the ashram. You know, they had that connection, that spiritual connection. They come back out, and they hadn't worked on their lower chakras. There was no reason to in their understanding, because their goal was connect with spirit, connect with their soul, whatever. So they come out, and they've got all these blocks in their lower chakras, and they don't know it. And they have assumed that this was all there was. A lot of people, believe it or not, develop their upper chakras trying to escape the lower chakra pain. I mean, it happens. Yeah. And they don't realize it's aversion. They think they're running towards something when part of them, not all of them, is running away from the other. And yet, in a way, it's a good thing for this reason. If they're that blocked up and they don't have a way to work with the stuff that's hurting them so badly, then at least they've got an area they can develop, and then they can start working their way back down. So it's whatever process they choose, whatever options and resources they have available to them to help them along the way, and their personal karma, you know, and probably their soul's intention in the process also. Yes.
Well, so you're saying that those people are actually experiencing oneness, even though they're really blocked here. That's my
That was the sort of yes part.
Okay.
Meaning this, and I'll, in my understanding, if you want to have complete oneness, okay, if there could be said to be such a thing, you need to have everything clear first. You need to have everything healed first. You need to have everything balanced first. You need to have everything aligned first. Then you need to have everything integrated. And then you have to integrate it with spirit. Okay? Now that does bring that brings all of that. Now some people prefer to integrate at the level of the heart. Okay? And your heart has the capacity to function in that way. Your other chakras are not so good at that. Okay. Having said that, if you do achieve that, if you do focus on that to the extent that you attain that one-pointed perspective, you might say, one-pointed consciousness, one-pointed focus of all your energy, all of your being, all the time, it's nice. Having said that, the road to getting there, if you want to get to that point, means you have to deal with your karma. And you have to deal with the reflections of your karma that have been embedded in your first, second, third chakras, and sometimes fourth. We're going to look at some pretty pictures now. By the way, this is the representation we've got of the 8th chakra, spherical, 4 inches above your head. 8th chakra has the capacity, and the best I would say between 8th and 9th chakra, if I were going to use a metaphor, if your soul has an intention, and it's a very creative being, in the 9th chakra, it's got like a big artist's studio where there are no limits. You can paint anything you want. And the 8th chakra has more of the function of manifesting that into this reality. It says, oh yeah, you got those pretty fine, wonderful, artistic ideas, but this is reality, man. I got to talk to this 7th chakra. You know, what do you... And in that way, it's a translation process. Translating, manifesting into this reality. Now, what we haven't said yet is that you've got, believe it or not, your spiritual karma you can access via your 8th and 9th chakras. Your worldly karma you can access via your 10th chakra. We're clicking by the 9th chakra, it's pretty, and going directly to the 10th chakra, which isn't as pretty. Worldly karma. What's worldly karma?
Relative to this dimension. To the
At least our
worldly
perception of
dimension.
it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes?
When I hit you and you come after me?
Yes? You got it. You mean like last time? Yeah, that's Tuesday. Oh, I wanted... Anyway, that's another story. Okay. Anything that happens in you in your 3rd chakra down, pretty much you could associate with worldly karma. I'm not saying there isn't some lower heart chakra stuff in there. Primal stuff, anger, negative emotion, fear, addiction, and these are the negative things, sides. I'm not saying you don't have positive sides to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd chakra. They get a bad rap, by the way. Yes. Yeah, sharks are good. They clean up the ocean. And yet, the 10th chakra is a place where all of that's recorded, okay? It's recorded in what might be termed a holographic form. All of the energy, the intense energy, the very dense energy of that time, past lives, by the way, you were more dense in the past lives than you are now. Your chakras are probably open higher than they ever have been in the past due to quality education, a higher resonance around the planet in general, having worked out some karma perhaps, et cetera, et cetera. Yet, whatever you have not worked out is in there. And one day it's going to bubble up.
The human energy system is an amazingly intricate and complex mechanism. It allows you to feel, think, understand, decide, and experience. This system has been designed so that you can go back over and over again and glean and pick up more and more from each viewing, understanding more about yourselves, understanding more about your emotions and your relationships.